I thought I'd gotten away from it. But the other day, I was out doing an unassuming acoustic test, trying to prevent bass from getting into a restaurant from an adjacent spin class building where they play EDM at levels that could make you throw up. And it got me back to thinking about low frequency sound and how it travels. And then it took me back to the days of the Kokomo Hum. They really don't want me to talk about this, and I'm hoping that this won't create another problem where I'm being tracked. Back in the late 1990s, I started getting phone calls with people complaining that they had this strange low-frequency hum going on in their houses. There were a number of people from many different areas around where I live, and all of the complaints were the same. It always happened late at night, and it was different parts of the house. Some people heard it in their basement. Some people heard it in their bedrooms. Another person said it was coming from a garage next door, and they were sure that it was an alien living there. But in all cases, the low-frequency energy was enough to keep people awake, make them sick, make them feel headaches and other problems. So, being the kind of person I am, I told them all it was going to cost money to come out and figure out what was wrong. Every one of them wanted us to come and check it out first and then get the money later. Well, having worked for nightclubs in the past and promoters, because I used to work in sound, I know you always get the money up front. Money up front. That's just the way it works. Anybody who says they don't want to give you the money up front is suspect. So anyway, most of them said no. They said, we want this hum fixed, but we're not going to pay. So they'd go away for a while, and then a few weeks later, you'd get another call. And then they'd want you to come out again. The one of them, which was a lady, wanted us to come out, and just one of us. I wanted to bring two people, because when you're going out at 4 o'clock in the morning to somebody's house, you always bring a witness. That's just the way it is. But she wanted one person to come, and her problem was in her bedroom. So anyway, we're not going to talk about that anymore. But she's the one who decided to finally cough up money, so we took a couple of people and went out and checked it out. And we did find a low-frequency noise, really low spectrum, barely audible, but it was driving her crazy. So I started doing some research. One of the theories was that there was tunneling going on underneath the United States, that they were building tunnels to bring in Russian or Chinese troops under the country. Now, that seemed really far-fetched, but these days, if you read things on the internet, that's not far-fetched at all. People think that all the time. Another theory was that it was seismic activity, so I contacted the USGS and checked with them, and there was no seismic activity being reported. Another theory was it was somebody digging tunnels, like normal tunnels, for water and things like that. So we checked all around the United States, and there was nothing being drilled anywhere near where this seemed to be going on. And in the process of looking at all of this, we discovered the Kokomo Hum. Kokomo, Indiana, had complaints from thousands of people, and they were complaining about a low-frequency noise, and people were getting diarrhea, they were getting ill, they were having all kinds of problems. And this is way far away from where I live. So looking at these two very separated activities, looking at where they are, where I am, and thinking, how could this possibly be connected? But it was all happening in the same time period. You do realize that there could be some strange things going on. So another thing, well, I actually can't use his name, can I? Well, let's just say there's a person, we'll call him Person X, who is an acoustical engineer here in the same area that I live in, that happened to have designed the SOSUS net, which is the underwater communication system used by the US Navy. Ultra low frequency waves send sound all around the world through the water. And I know that those are capable of also sending sound through bedrock. So I contacted Person X and had a talk with him, and he said, yeah, this could be coming from thousands of miles away or hundreds of miles away, or it could be coming from next door. He said low frequency energy, once it gets out into bedrock, underground water, all sorts of things, he said it could be coming from anywhere. He said, yes, it could be any of those conspiracy theory kinds of things, or it could be something completely natural. The earth moving, not to the point of actually having a seismic event, but just kind of grinding around. But the odd part was the time of day and the great disparity of things that were going on. So in Kokomo, they hired an engineer and paid him a bunch of money to come and try to figure out what was going on. And after spending lots of time and lots of money, eventually they came up with what they thought was the problem, which was actually a mechanical system on top of a roof of a major factory. It seems a little sketchy, but then I thought back to a situation here that I was involved in that was a similar problem. And I guess that I can talk about like up front, so we can turn off all of the crazy voice effects and maybe turn the lights back on. So we just ended the weird phase. Now we're going to talk about low frequency energy in general. So one of the most misunderstood things about acoustics is how low frequencies and sound in general travels through structure. The situation with the Kokomo Hum and all of those things really did happen. Those phone calls and weird occurrences really did happen. And we had a couple local ones where we found a similar problem. We had one at a large factory here in town where there was a big cafeteria and people were getting ill after eating lunch and literally throwing up, like everybody. And it was a new cafeteria, it had just been opened. We went there, they looked at environmental issues, they looked at other issues. We came in, and although it would not show up on our analyzer, I could feel a low frequency problem in the building. We eventually tracked it down to a mechanical system that had a bearing that was causing it to emit approximately a 2 hertz cyclical vibration that was literally shaking people's insides. So it gives you an idea of how powerful low frequencies can be. When you get into designing for soundproofing, which is something a lot of people do, most people use STC as a standard, which is sound transmission coefficient. And they look at an STC number and they assume that that's going to soundproof a space. And what's interesting is that you can have 2 different structures with 2 totally different actual low frequency performances with the same STC value. So a couple of images you're going to see one that is a multi-layered gypsum assembly that has an STC of whatever that number is. You'll see it on the screen. I think it's around the 50 range. And you'll see also, I could probably grab those files and I could look at them while I'm doing this, and that would probably tell me something. Shows 2 curves. One is for an 8-inch concrete block wall, and another one is for a gypsum wall with a layer of 5/8 inch gypsum on one side, a layer of 5/8 inch gypsum on the other side, and bad insulation in the middle. These are both rated at the same sound transmission coefficient, which is approximately 42. On the chart you're looking at, however, on the left-hand side is lower frequencies, on the right-hand side is higher frequencies. The CMU wall at 50 hertz takes out 28 decibels. The gypsum wall takes out 16, yet these are rated the same STC. When you look at the blue curve for the gypsum wall, it performs better than the block wall at higher frequencies. So even though these are the same sound transmission coefficient, their behavior is completely different, and the areas in which they excel or don't excel doesn't change STC, because STC does not include frequencies below 125 hertz, and it allows for deficiencies above and below the curve that get summed out, and they create the actual numbers based on that. So looking at STC is not how you design for low frequency control. You have to look at material specifics. And there's pieces of software like the one I was using to analyze this that allow you to look at certain material characteristics at various frequencies. So anyway, when you get down to doing soundproofing and other things where you care about low frequencies, you kind of have to go way beyond just off-the-shelf STC ratings as the basis of what you're doing. I'm not sure how all these things go together. This may end up being two different things, where we talk about the Kokomo Hum and something else and maybe something else, or this whole thing gets shot down the toilet. I'm going to have to listen to this back and see how this all turned out, because this is getting pretty weird.